Welcome to the Trades and Builders Business Program. My name's Miles Primrose from BusinessSight. I've been working with trades for the last 18 years along with my team, and with me today is Laurence Barlow from Credit ReBoot. The reason he's here today is because, first of all, I found him on social media when I was wasting time, and I saw Laurence on one of his videos where he was talking about how he helps a lot of small businesses, and that actually I stopped and I actually listened to his video, and I wanted to have a chat with him. And then I couldn't work out how to get to contact him directly. Obviously quite a busy person, and so I sent him a message through LinkedIn, and we got chatting that way. So Laurence has actually come in on board on our program as one of the presenters in the financial days to actually help a lot of the trades and the builders with essentially what I would call helping them understand the right way to actually approach loans, how to deal with any issues around maybe having too many credit cards. And the thing that I believe is in the last 18 months, we all know it's been a really unusual time, and its cash flow has been really hard for a lot of people. So we've got to be really careful and really smart about what we do. And the key thing is to actually build a team around us that actually know what they're doing. So Laurence, thanks for your time. And can you explain to us a bit about Credit ReBoot? What's the core thing you do? And what would be a couple of examples on how you can help trades and builders, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having us, Miles. We have an interesting pedigree, and as the joke goes in the company is that we're all largely ex-debt collectors. So for our sins on the dark side, we learned an enormous amount about what happens on the debt collection side. The company that I owned collected from most of the major banks, telcos, and utilities around Australia. So all the majors, including most of the large finance companies like Citi and Amex and the larger telcos as well. So what we did was we decided to, as they say, went to the light side. We developed some software that unusually finds breaches in the establishment of credit facilities for personal loans, credit cards, mortgages, and investment loans, or investment in beach houses or mining town properties and things like that. And we have a very interesting approach, and it once again comes out of our legacy on the debt collection side. So what we do is we use certain parts of the law and the legislation to extract documentation from the bank on our customers. Let's use a credit card as an example. So we extract the documentation from the bank. We then run that documentation through the software. The software does hundreds of checks on how the loan was established, relying on the National Consumer Credit Protection Act, along with the credit code and some other legislation, and it identifies where the errors are. It is fair to say that there's an enormous number of loans out there that have been written and have got compliance breaches on them. In fact, one of the statistics that most people don't know is that Australia has the second highest level of consumer debt on the planet, which of course doesn't make a lot of sense because we're hardly near that level of income. So how do we end up with that much debt? Well, I would go further and say I think there's a lot of loans, a lot of credit facilities that have been written that are not compliant, and that certainly appears to be our direct experience. And so we uncover those errors, and we then send the breaches off to the credit provider, one of the majors, finance companies or banks, and we give them the bad news about where there are errors in the loan. Now, our key approach to negotiating is that we're not saying that the bank didn't give the loan to the small business owner credit card, for example, and we're not saying that they didn't spend it. What we are saying is that if the credit provider has breached the code, if they're trying to hold the business owner to the full compliance of that contract and they haven't met those same standards, then that's the basis of a negotiation. And that's generally our approach. And we get some fairly we get some fairly interesting results. We get some spectacular results from 50 cents to the dollar to occasionally we get complete waivers if there's substantial breaches.
So I've got a question. So just say I've got my trades business, and the last 18 months, like a lot of trades, has been up and down. Look, there's some good times and not so good months. I've maybe got more credit than, if I look back 18 months or 2 years ago, the credit I had was okay. But what I've got now, I've still got the same amount of credit, but it doesn't feel good. It's a bit harder to manage. I'm stressed out of my head. If I come to you or one of your team, and I say to you, look, I've got 4 credit cards and I've got a loan. I don't know what's going to happen next month with it from a cash flow point of view. Can you help me improve my situation? Are you able to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's very much in our wheelhouse. That's exactly the kind of challenges that we take on. So the idea is that exactly what we've said. So within signing, you decided it was a good idea to become a customer, and you talk to us when we work it through, work out whether we think there's problems there and how you've got the credit. A lot of people don't, and quite reasonably. I mean, you're not really going to know where the breaches are in your credit facility unless you're one of these people who stay up late at night and read the National Consumer Credit Protection Act. But if you're doing that, you've probably got a somnia problem as well. So, so we will identify pretty clearly if we think that there are problems. And then what happens is that if you became a client within 24 to 40 hours of using our service, we immediately shut down any credit activity or collection activity on the account. So the banks are not allowed to debt collect on your account. They're not allowed to mark your credit file. They're not allowed to put a black mark on your credit file. They're not allowed to call you. They've got to talk to us. And we don't want any paperwork from you, which is very different from a mortgage broker who will want all sorts of documentation. So we don't want paperwork. We know that the compliance breaches are always with the lender. So that's where the bodies are buried, and that's what we want to see. So we get the documentation off the lender. That's where we'll identify the breaches, and then of course you can help us because you've got to cease payment. So of the credit facility that you're using. We use something inside of the Australian consumer, inside of the ACCC, that says if the liability is disputed in the way that we dispute the debt, then all collection activity must be suspended, and that includes credit report listings. So if you're paying the bill, you're not helping. We're not going to get them to the table. So you've got to pause payment, allow us to dispute it, and we'll get them to the table. They're not allowed to mark your file, and they're not allowed to contact you or debt collect on you. So we take that on.
So as long as they get to you, this hypothetical trades business owner, as long as they get to you early enough, you can help them, and it can be done reasonably quickly.
Early's better.
Yeah.
Early is always better.
Yeah.
Always better. But having said that, if you do have a challenge at the moment and you've got debt collectors on your tail, that's not a challenge. As I indicated early on, we spent a fair bit of time on the dark side before we went to the light side. So we love dealing with debt collectors. That's kind of puts the fun in the day for us.
Okay. Look, and one of the things, I know I don't want to have an hour-long video right now, but I think it would be a good idea if we maybe do another video, obviously around in the last 18 months. You would know the terms better than me, but there's been some changes or allowances around what can and cannot happen around pulling in debts or those types of things. I know you probably got the right wording for that. What's happened in the last 6 months or so around the things being relaxed or that type of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So the government, in their wisdom, put a moratorium on insolvencies and bankruptcies. So that was off the table. That's since changed. You would have seen a lot more activity from companies now that will be chasing debts. In fact, in our world, we're seeing some really aggressive behavior. If you could imagine, there's I don't know, let's say your 4 credit providers all lined up at the kitchen door, trying to run to the table to grab the $10 on the table. They know the first one there is going to be the one that gets the $10. So many of them are breaking ranks and breaking compliance and going and trying to get the money as quickly as they can. They are breaches, and we will stop that, makes your case stronger because of the amount of breaches, but it is uncomfortable because they just at the moment, you know, they're not they're not obeying the stop lines, the stop lights in some cases. So there is that going on. You'll also see more aggressive activity from the ATO. I think that's probably in the media and people understand that. However, what we do is we as a rule, we do not do financial hardship. So we're not about saying, look, you've got to go cap in hand and kiss the boots to the banker and things like that. We're about, let's identify the breaches inside of the established, what we say, cradle to the grave. So the establishment of the loan all the way through to the debt collection side. It's highly likely we will find breaches, and I'm not talking about spelling mistakes in the contract. We're talking about real substantial breaches where the loan wasn't assessed properly, your capacity to service a loan wasn't assessed properly, and a variety of hundreds of other checks that we do. And we use those and we say, all right, bank, if you're going to try and if you're trying to hold the consumer or the business owner to the full compliance of the contract, it is fair and reasonable you're held to those same standards. If you've breached them, that's where we negotiate. So there are the moratoriums on insolvency and those sorts of things have been removed. There are strategies which we can help you with that are called safe harbor laws that do deal with insolvent trading over this COVID period. So you know, that's a strategy that you can look at. It's not right for everyone, but it's an effective strategy and something that business owners that have been affected by COVID do need to consider. Absolutely.
And look, I mean, my understanding is your team deal with these types of things day in and day out. That's all they do is actually help people with these types of problems. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, completely. So we do credit cards, personal loans, mortgages on your home. If you've used your home to help use equity in your home to help run your business, if you're using your credit card to pay suppliers, and you've been a very common breach is what they call unsolicited credit increases, and this has happened to most of our customers, is where they've got 2 or 3 credit cards from the same company, or you know, they've been given a $5,000 credit card and then they'll get a phone call from a telemarketer who will go, congratulations, you've now been awarded an extra $20,000 on your card, and if you take it today, we'll give you a free bottle of wine. And then we hear that from time to time. So there's all sorts of ways that they are selling more money, and sometimes it's just putting you into a debt prison you shouldn't be in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for your time. Have you got a 1300 number that people can contact you on, or?
Yeah, absolutely. 1300 361 879. Wasn't sure if I do that off the top of my head. Anyway, and of course, Credit ReBoot.com.au.
Okay. All right. Thanks for your time, Laurence, and I'll see you again soon.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it, Miles. Thanks very much for having me.